Welcome to the Agentforce era and what might just be the end of the Salesforce admin and the death of the Salesforce partner. Hi, I'm Vuk, owner of Maverick and coach at the Salesforce Solopreneur Blueprint, and today we're going to explore what potential impacts the meteor that AI is might have on our Salesforce ecosystem. This is a huge topic, so I've broken it down into 4 chapters, and at the bottom, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see the timestamps for each of those chapters. But the 4 things that we're going to cover is obviously the current reality of AI and the way Agentforce is being developed. Then we're going to look at the initial impacts that this technology is having on our ecosystem already. Then we'll focus in and dive in on understanding how this is impacting and might impact our admins and the future of their career stability. And then lastly, we're going to look at the major impacts and the major shifts that this meteoric change is going to have on the implementation partner ecosystem, an ecosystem that Salesforce has nurtured and built over the last 2 decades, is seeing changes faster than it's ever seen before. So let's dive into each 4 of those topics. So the current AI reality. The thing that strikes me the most is that a year ago, I would have told you, do not trust AI for any Salesforce answers. It doesn't know what it's talking about. It maybe will never know what it's talking about. And realistically speaking, over the last year, I've become a believer. I've become much more trusting of the information that it gives me for, small little configuration questions and small things that maybe I'm not doing every single day. And it's becoming a lot more trustworthy, a lot faster than I anticipated it would. And the sad reality is it's going to get much, much, much more improved over the next few years as we use it, as we provide it with inputs, as it learns from the ways that it's helping us. It's going to become incredibly trustworthy, right? So I think that is a clear sign that not only are we able to trust it for information, we will be able to trust it for configuration, which, as you can imagine, is where a large part of the stress and a large part of the worry comes from in most of our careers, right? Is this thing might replace us. And if we look at what Salesforce is saying its Agentforce strategy is, it might enforce that worry, right? Because for a while now, Mark Benioff, the CEO of Salesforce, has been saying these messages very clearly. He's been telling us that they're going to have more agents than people. And I think he means it both in his own company and also in all industry, right? And he's saying, and he believes that customers want agents that can actually do work for them. So what does that mean, right? It means that he's building a company that's able to replace people, not just in the information providing field, but also in the building field, in the delivering work field, right? So we do have to be aware that Salesforce themselves are working towards a future where AI is able to do the work that humans do today, right? I believe that presently, those who have the biggest advantage with the technology that's available today are coders. Tools like Salesforce Vibe and Claude and all other VS Code interfaces or MCP built tools that are able to actually deliver not just quick configurations, but also complex entire products through just verbal input are something that is empowering the coders of today's world, right? So people like me who are really more so on the declarative side are actually already falling behind because, you know what, I don't know how to code, and now I don't even know how I can validate if the code that's being spit out by an AI tool is correct or not. And that gap, that knowledge gap, is something that we have to be aware of, right? We have to be aware of the fact that people who understand the code layer of our platform are in a much stronger position to leverage the technology that's available today. So if you're coding already, good on you. If you're not, you probably want to at least start to understand what the heck is code, okay? So that, I believe, is the current AI reality that we're existing in today. Without any change, without anything dramatic changing, that's where things stand. So what is the initial impact of that reality? Well, the first thing that I believe is to our benefit, so to say, as humans, not agents, is that there is a bit of temporary blindness. Because At present, Salesforce would love for its client base and the world to believe and trust that a tool like Agentforce is 100% ready to take on real industry applications immediately. And all other AI building platforms, all other AI building companies would also love all of us to believe that everything that the current version of their AI is saying and doing is 100% perfect. And that sort of assuredness, or almost cockiness, you could say, or certainly a little bit of bravado, is going to influence a lot of companies that want to save a buck, that want to have some solutions more quickly without needing to use a professional expert, without needing to hire an administrator for their team. And the reality is that little bit of blindness is going to bring some issues that humans are still going to have to be needed to fix, right? So the initial impacts of this ecosystem, I believe, will benefit us, at least for a certain period of time. Those of us who are providing human service of building and building this platform and facilitating business processes and troubleshooting and supporting companies and using these tools, I think that AI might actually create a mini boon for us, a little bit of a gold rush where the early adapters of this technology are going to be overly trusting of it, and some of its blind spots are going to lead them down the wrong path, which will mean that we will be needed again to come in and clean up. Now, I don't love that reality, right? I'm not looking for that type of work. I don't love having to clean up. I don't love seeing people make mistakes, but I do believe that is the reality that is going to come from pushing this technology at people, and people, being susceptible to marketing messages, being susceptible to saying, I want to save a few bucks, and using these technologies instead of trusting true professionals. But what I know is that there is certainly companies that are not just Salesforce, but companies that are focusing on building the next admin, the next consultant as a agent in this ecosystem, right? Companies like Sierra AI and Wrestle AI, which are both run by individuals that I've met with, that I've spoken with, and the reality is, it's not just Salesforce that's working to replace the working class of the Salesforce ecosystem. There is companies that are building these agents that are going to interface with Salesforce and perhaps be a competitor to whatever tooling Salesforce will come out with. Because I trust that in the future, Salesforce will have Agentforce implement that's going to be taking away work from admins and from consultants, right? But the reality is that technology already exists today in the shape of these companies like Sierra AI and Wrestle AI. So we will see who wins that race. But the reality is, it's not just Salesforce that's working to replace our capacity as builders of this platform. A huge brunt of this shift in our ecosystem is going to be borne by the admins, especially potential future admins. I truly believe that the age of the accidental admin, the way that I joined the ecosystem, is essentially over, because I believe that the admin role is essentially going to be replaced through the ability to quickly find information and the ability to quickly change Salesforce to what you need using some of these AI technologies is going to mean that a company that uses Salesforce is not going to need a full-time admin, and potentially not nearly as soon as they would have typically needed one over the last 5 years, 10 years, right? But what will never change, at least I hope will not change, or I'm pretty confident will not change, is that we will always need to understand the strategy, the process, the people that are involved in these business processes before we understand the technology. Salesforce, Agentforce, any other AI-driven tool is just that, a tool. And without people, without good, clear inputs into these tools, the output of them is never going to be perfect, right? Now, that could be the same thing that I said about AI and trusting it for Salesforce information a year ago into the future, but as it currently stands, I still am a firm believer that the people and the strategy is always going to be a human creativity advantage, right? So it's going to be, again, as some of these AI and Salesforce talking heads and marketing people would like to say, it's not just agents, it's people with agents, right? And it's the people first. So I think and hope that all of you will understand that you need to start understanding how businesses really work, what clear process and strategy design looks like. So when you're implementing these new and improving agentic technologies, that you're doing it with good strategy and good design. Which is why I believe the new entry point for the Salesforce ecosystem is not going to be the admin layer, but the business analysis layer. I think that's going to be the new entry role into our ecosystem, especially in the next few years. It's going to shift away from somebody who just knows how to, configure some settings to somebody that knows how to talk to AI, somebody that knows how to translate business needs into technology solutions, or at least technology requirements, so that the input into these AI models and into these AI technologies is going to have as good of information as we can give it, and so that the human creativity and the human intuition can still play a role before the agentic tool set does something with that information, right? Because any output is only as good as its input. So those of you who are just starting your careers, your new admins, immediately double down on your BA knowledge. There's so many intelligent people, capable people in our ecosystem that create content around business analysis. I don't want to name all of them right now, because if I do, I'm going to miss somebody. But trust me, there's so many people that can help you in this shift that you need to have as an admin. You need to become more than just an administrator of this technology. You need to become an advocate, a business analyst for your business and how it uses this technology. So don't stress yet, admins. Just understand that, like everybody else, you're also going to have to increase your knowledge, increase your capacity, and learn some new skills. And lastly, my biggest prediction: the extinction of the Salesforce partner as we know it, right? These big players in our ecosystem are just like the dinosaurs. When the meteor hit, are the biggest, and they're going to fall the hardest. And why that's going to happen, I believe, is twofold. One, the same impact that I just talked about for admins, that these junior roles are starting to disappear, is eventually going to impact and shrink from the bottom partners, because what they're going to realize is, well, we don't need junior talent. And there isn't going to be junior talent to support some of our senior talent in delivery. We're going to have our senior resources run these projects and leverage these technologies that are emerging to act as their junior consultants, right? And at the same time, what's going to shrink them from the top is that I'm firmly confident, and this might be my biggest prediction, and this is something I've been thinking about a whole lot, is that Salesforce themselves are most certainly going to come out with a productized Agentforce tool that's going to be called something like Agentforce Implement, and its sole purpose is going to be so that Salesforce can retain the revenue for implementation for itself without needing to staff implementation resources. And what that might look like is a potential customer is going to be told, okay, you heard from the partner that the implementation is going to take 6 months and it's going to cost $200,000. If you want to work with them, go ahead. But if you want to buy Agentforce Implement for 6 months, that's only going to cost you half that much money, and you'll be able to get twice as much done. And all you're going to have to do is talk to it, and you're not going to have any external partner to do and stabilize your platform and make it your own. And while I have not seen any public announcements to that matter, I am very confident that Salesforce themselves is 100% thinking about it. Why? Why would they want to do that? Well, because for the last 20 years, partners were something that enabled revenue for Salesforce. How did they enable revenue for Salesforce? Well, when Salesforce would sell to a customer, they would say, here's a partner that's going to make sure that this solution works for you. And what did that mean? Well, it meant that that solution was sticky in that company, and it meant that Salesforce could sell more licenses. But as these technologies emerge and improve, what's going to happen is customers are going to say, well, why is it that I need to spend 6 figures to get this thing off the ground? And these big partners especially, are actually going to become a blocker to Salesforce customers or potential customers buying Salesforce. So, of course, Salesforce is going to do what it needs to do to protect its revenue. And in fact, by selling implementation as a service without needing to hire consultants like they tried in the past with Salesforce Professional Services, is actually going to mean even more revenue for Salesforce and less roadblocks. So the shrink from the bottom and the pressure from the top is going to mean that these big consulting firms cannot exist. And if you're somebody that's today working at one of these firms and you're a senior resource, it's about time to start thinking about how you can step out and have the independent advantage that I believe is going to exist for a very long time. Okay? If you're smart, capable, and delivering real value in a large consulting firm, even in a medium-sized consulting firm, it's time for you to start thinking about who do you love working with, what are the types of projects that you love the most, what are the things that you are the best at, how can you bring value to companies by leveraging these emerging technologies without the large overhead of a firm, project managers and resource planners and HR and all these other things that bloat and bring down these big partners. How do you take your skills and go to the marketplace, bring value to companies, and bring value to your life? That's the question that you need to answer. And no matter what happens over the next 2, 3, 4 years, independent experts are going to be the ones that when they step away from this big conglomerates are going to have the biggest advantage in our ecosystem. And there's going to be companies that are going to be seeking those experts out to use and leverage the technologies that are emerging to rapidly bring them value. So if you're smart and capable, do not be afraid, go independent. Okay? Now, let's bring all of that together. So what does it all mean? Well, the first thing that it means is do not be afraid. Okay? I don't believe AI is going to be coming for your job, but realistically speaking, somebody using AI might be coming for your job. Ultimately, the biggest factor in all of this is that strategy is still more important and will be more important than technology, right? Even AI tools require clear inputs. So you need to become a better analyst, a better strategist, no matter what your role is today, because your career does depend on it. And lastly, bigger certainly does not equal better. Bigger is not better. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. And that's something that for sure is guaranteed with the incoming impact of AI in our ecosystem. Independent experts are going to be the ones that thrive, while big players are going to be no more. Okay? With all that said, you can still thrive if you're professional, if you're good at what you do, if you're professional about what you do, if you care about what you do, if you care about your career, if you care about your clients, if you care about your team. Don't give up. Face it head on like everything else you've done in your whole life, and you will find success. And AI will not be the end of you, but it will change things. We have to be aware of that. And that's ultimately why I made this video, because I wanted to myself understand what are the impacts, and then I wanted to share them with you. I hope you found some of this informative. If you have any questions about any of this, if you have any thoughts, leave some comments, talk to me, engage with me. I'm always ready and willing and open to have conversations around this, and certainly always willing to give advice to anybody who's thinking about working solo. If you are thinking about working solo, I've got a fantastic resource on ssb.mvrk.ca, a self-assessment that you can take that'll show you what strengths you have in working solo and what are some weaknesses that you might need to work on if that is something that you see in your future. With all that said, my name is Vuk Stajc. I hope you enjoyed this video and have an awesome rest of your day. Bye.